So tonight, though we're having some technical difficulties with the stage, I can see everyone a lot better tonight. Alhamdulillah. You brought a copy of the Holy Quran, mashallah. MashaAllah. My young brothers in the back, MashaAllah. I've been saying this every night. I see you, MashaAllah. I've been saying this every single night. This is our identity. You hold this book with pride. Regardless if people like it or not, you hold this book with pride. And if you don't have a copy of the Holy Quran, brothers and sisters, I've been approached every single night since I've asked, if you want a copy of the Holy Quran, come and see me. And alhamdulillah, brothers and sisters, every single night are coming up to me, and I know it's a hard thing to ask, but don't be ashamed. There's nothing to be ashamed about. You don't have a Holy Quran in your home, it's okay. We'll provide one. I have copies of the Holy Quran. Mainstay provided us some copies to share with you. So if you don't have a copy of the Holy Quran, don't forbid yourself from that blessing of having it in your life. This is the opportunity. And like I said before, you're coming to the Majlis of Imam Al-Husayn alayhi salam before sundown, before Maghrib. This is the 8th night of us coming together, correct? Before Maghrib. If you haven't prayed today, that's the musalla in the back. Imam Al-Husayn alayhi salam would be so pleased if you were to get up and go pray and come back and sit down. Nothing to be ashamed about. Hold your Holy Quran with you, or place your hand on your heart and join me in making a pledge that we can make for this life and for the next. Allah is my Lord. Allah is my Lord. Allah is my Lord. I can't hear you. Islam is my religion. Islam is my religion. Islam is my religion. The Quran is my book. The Quran is my book. Why are you shy? Are you saying something wrong? If there's anything right to say, it's these words. Don't be bashful. The person sitting next to you is your supporter. The person sitting next to you is your friend. The person sitting next to you is your brother, your sister. Say it with pride. Say it with strength. Say it because you believe it, and I know you do. The Quran is my book. Muhammad is my prophet. Muhammad is my prophet. Muhammad is my prophet. Ali is my Imam. Ali is my Imam. Ali is my Imam. Ahsantum, salawat. I want you to take a moment. When we begin in Allah's name, the most beneficent, the most merciful, and we send praise and blessings upon Muhammad wa ali Muhammad, and we're in this memory, we're trying to bring forth a mourning, a commemoration, a remembrance, a reaffirmation of our identity at our very core. We're unlayering, unveiling. We're digging deeper, not to just know new information about history. We're digging deeper to find out who we really are. So I want you to take a moment, and I want you to take this in a mature fashion. I want you to turn very briefly. Turn to the person on your left, real quick. Turn to the person on your left. Turn to the person on your right. You see a brother, you see a sister. The person that's sitting next to you, it's not a coincidence that they are with you. Now you may have come together. You may have come as family members, as friends, as people that know one another. That you're coming together in the Majlis of Imam Al-Husayn alayhi salam. Do not take that for granted. Whether that's your biological brother, or that is a friend who've become a brother in your life. Whether that's your sister from your mother, or that's a sister in Islam in your life. don't take that relationship for granted. You see, on the day of Ashura, when Imam Al-Husayn alayhi salam looked at his companions, as few as they were, he said, I couldn't have wished or prayed for better friends than you. And he said, I couldn't have wished or prayed for a better family than you. So you and I, we are tonight, in every single one of these nights, choosing our friends, choosing our family. I want you to think about this. You're choosing your friends, choosing your family. It is said that Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam once said, قُلْ لِمَنْ تُعَاشِرْ أَقُلْ لَكَ مَنْ أَنْتِ. Tell me who you befriend. I will tell you who you are. Now I want you to take this as a realization in this night as we commemorate Al-Qasim alayhi salam. And tonight we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to commemorate Al-Qasim and the brothers of Al-Qasim. Because a lot of times when we're listening to the story of Al-Qasim, we forget about his brothers. He had 3 other brothers on the day of Ashura. Abdullah al-Akbar, Hassan al-Muthanna, Hassan II, and Abdullah al-Asghar. He had brothers on the day of Ashura. Brothers that also died. One of them survived, Hassan II. And he would be, many of us wonder, who survived to tell the story of Ashura? There were individuals that survived. Hassan II, who charged in the battlefield. If you remember when I mentioned the brothers of Muslim ibn Aqil. The brothers of Muslim ibn Aqil we mentioned yesterday. He had 4 brothers. He went with them, charged into the battlefield, fought valiantly. One of his limbs was severed, but he survived. He survived the battle. And he would tell the tale of Ashura alongside Lady Zainab alayhi salam, alongside the Imam al-Sajjad alayhi salam. But Al-Qasim would watch as his brothers went forward. First, his brother Hassan al-Muthanna, and be wounded, almost killed. And then he'd watch as the sons of Lady Zainab alayhi salam would go forward. Now, yesterday, I was having a conversation with one of the brothers, and he told me, he's like, who else was there in Ashura? Who else was there on the day of Ashura? And subhanAllah, the conversation was with a few people. And one mentioned, who was there on the day of Ashura other than the ones that we've typically heard of? And we were going through some of the details. And then one said, I had no idea Lady Zainab had sons. And she had sons on the day of Ashura. Muhammad and On. After the brothers of Muslim ibn Aqil go forward and they give their lives, Muhammad goes forward, the son of Lady Zainab, kisses her hand, takes permission from her and Imam al-Husayn alayhi salam, and enters the battlefield, gives his life. On his brother, he sees his brother die, goes before Lady Zainab alayhi salam, takes permission from her, kisses her hand, goes into the battlefield. Lady Zainab alayhi salam didn't just lose her brothers and her nephews on the day of Ashura. She lost her own sons. Then Abdullah al-Akbar, Al-Qasim's older brother, goes into the battlefield, fights valiantly, takes over 20 men, and then he too is killed. And Al-Qasim finds himself before Imam al-Husayn alayhi salam, asking for permission to go into the battlefield. You see, Al-Qasim alayhi salam was about 14. Said he was a teenager. And Imam al-Husayn alayhi salam, seeing that his brother just died and Hassan al-Muthanna just wounded, it was hard for Imam al-Husayn alayhi salam to let this young man go, who resembled so much of his own brother Imam al-Hasan. But you see, Al-Qasim, when he looked on the day of Ashura, he wasn't just seeing Imam al-Husayn's supporters. He was seeing his own family, his own friends, men that on the night before, when Zuhair ibn al-Qayn would say, 1,000 deaths for you, Ya Husayn. When Habib ibn Mudahir would say, we are here to honor Zainab and her brother. When Muslim ibn Awsaja would call out, we will never leave you. When the sons of Aqil would come forward and say, how could we ever leave the master of paradise? Al-Qasim would also say, Husayn, my uncle, may you grant me the honor to die with you and your companions. And Imam al-Husayn says, O Qasim, you wish to die with us? And Al-Qasim responds so poetically that the valleys of eternity will have his quote etched into the realities of our mind forever. Uncle Husayn, to die with you is sweeter than honey to me. He was 14. Now, when I talk to the young men here, I'll tell you this, to the mothers in the audience, to the fathers in the audience, it's my honor to talk to the 14-year-olds. Now, some people, when they look at lectures, and they look at programs, people will look down or belittle a program that's targeted for young people. It's not as sophisticated. It's not targeting intellectual topics. I beg to differ. The things that we're covering here tonight, and every single night, we're going straight for the identity, but we're building it and raising it from a young age. The 14-year-olds here in the audience, the young men, the young women, I see you. I see you. Don't wait until you're 21. Don't wait until you're 35. Don't wait until you're 40. Don't wait. You know that expression, you only live once? You know, we actually believe in that, but in a different way. You only live once, as in you have one opportunity, one chance to do your very best so that for the rest of eternity, you have an amazing reflection. So that you can have everything that you can imagine in the bliss of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You have 14. You're responsible. You're responsible. Don't say I'm just a kid. Did Al-Qasim say I'm just a kid? No, he didn't. And when Al-Qasim sings the praises of his uncle Imam al-Husayn alayhi salam and tells him, I will die with you and it is sweeter than honey to me, we're not here just trying to make this idea of martyrdom and death sound marvelous. That was a university on the day of Ashura, where these individuals, yes, they were martyred, they were killed, they gave their lives. They gave their lives, not just their deaths. I'm going to say that again. They gave their lives, not just their deaths. Meaning they lived an entire lifetime, no matter how short or long that was. Habib ibn Mudahir on that day, he was 75, 27 at the death of Rasulullah. He was a companion of the Prophet. Al-Qasim 14. But these two men, even though there was generations and decades between them, they manifested that same truth and reality in what? Complete submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Complete submission. You and I, when we're thinking about our Islam, when we're thinking about our faith, our religion, what is it at its core? What is it? It's to let go and admit ultimate control to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, what do I mean by that? And how are we going to tie this to the person that's sitting to your left and the person that's sitting to your right? Who here wants to be free? You want freedom? Freedom. It's a universal principle. Who here wants freedom? MashaAllah. Beautiful. Imam al-Husayn alayhi salam, he said in one of his titles in Arabic, Abil Ahrar, the father of the free. That if you truly want to be free, look to the individual who manifested freedom. The freedom that Imam al-Husayn alayhi salam manifested truly was in what? Through submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That yes, even when life comes down on you and rains tragedy after tragedy and calamity after calamity, you submit to the will of God. You see Lady Zainab alayhi salam, that mountain of patience. What did she say? And you all know this, and if you don't know this and you're hearing it for the first time, what a blessing you're about to have right now. When they asked Lady Zainab alayhi salam, Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad, after the tragedy of Karbala, after the day of Ashura, after they were all massacred and killed, all the men, and the women were taken in chains as captives of war. Lady Zainab, a queen, royalty in her own right, the daughter of the commander of the faithful, Ali ibn Abi Talib, the granddaughter of the Prophet of Islam, she is taken in chains. And this isn't fiction. It's not fiction. This is what saved Islam. You see that salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad that we just said, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa, that did not exist without the sacrifice of Zainab and her brothers. To say La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah did not exist without Zainab and her patience, without Al-Husayn alayhi salam and his ultimate sacrifice. Zainab was taken alayhi salam in chains to Kufa, brought before Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad, who had killed her cousin, killed her friends, killed the supporters of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam, pointed at her and said, "Who's this woman?" They said, "This is Zainab bint Ali ibn Abi Talib." He said, "What did you find with Allah's decree upon you? How did you find what Allah has done to you?" The warped reality of many of these individuals, or what they professed, was that Allah did this to Ahlul Bayt. People are responsible for their actions. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is just. It's one of the fundamentals of our faith and our usul al-din. Justice. And because of His justice, we have accountability. These individuals, the enemies of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, they tried to shift the responsibility of their actions, their crimes, against Al-Husayn alayhi salam and his friends and his family, doing what? They said, Allah did this to them. Allah did this to Al-Husayn. They removed their hands. So he said to Lady Zainab alayhi salam, "What do you think of what Allah has done to you?" And then Lady Zainab alayhi salam said, "Ma ra'aytu illa jamila." I have seen nothing but beauty from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The crime is yours, but the way we interact with the tragedies and the calamities and the trials and tribulations upon us, that's our responsibility. And Lady Zainab and Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, what did they do whenever they were faced with a trial? Did they look to the heavens and say, "Why me, Allah?" Never. Never. In every single one of those instances on the day of Ashura, every single one of those men that died, their mothers, their sisters, their wives, what did they say? Either "I wish I was taken with you so that I could have your honor," or "May Allah reward us for this honor." Imam al-Husayn alayhi salam, Lady Zainab alayhi salam, they continue to give praise to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Did it hurt? Yes. Was there pain? Absolutely. And this is a reality we have to observe. Some people ask, how is it that they could interact with that tragedy in such a way? Were they not pained? Absolutely they were pained. They faced the greatest pain. But they didn't choose suffering. That's the difference. They experienced pain, but they chose contentment over suffering. So you and I, we have no choice. We're gonna go through pain. We're gonna go through struggle. We're gonna have challenges. But you and I choose to suffer and bow down before the challenge, or submit and bow down before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and choose contentment. Do you see the difference? You see the difference? Not a rhetorical question. Do you see the difference? So now, the person on your right and the person on your left, how are they helping you be better? How are they helping you turn pain into resilience instead of suffering? How are they helping you turn pain into contentment instead of suffering? And now, an even more important question. How are you making the person to your left and your right turn pain into contentment and not suffering? See, we have to ask ourselves an honest question, my dear brothers and sisters. Are you making the people in your life better or not? A lot of times we ask, a lot of times we say to ourselves, oh, I need a change. I need a change. I need a change. Not I need to change. I need a change. Need a change of environment. Need a change of atmosphere. And no problem. Go for it. You need to take a walk. Go take a walk. No problem. You needed to go travel. Go for it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, by the way, our faith, our religion, wide open. Wide open. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has a framework for us. Don't do this, don't do that. But generally, for the most part, can you explore in the world? Absolutely. Just make sure, time of prayer comes, you pray. Just make sure that when you're with people, you're modest and you're respectful. Just make sure you're honoring people and you're not disrespecting yourself. What better system do we have than that? How amazing is it when my sisters come to the majlis, when my brothers come to the majlis, they're coming with this spirit of awareness and focus. So many of the young brothers and sisters are coming up to me of different ages, 15, 20, 45, and I'm literally remembering certain specific people. And you guys know me, when I'm talking about specific people. This isn't me getting up here and giving a lecture. It's not a lecture. If I'm giving a lecture, I failed. This has to be a conversation. It has to be. Otherwise, I could be just talking to a wall or a computer screen. But I'm talking to you. I have the privilege of serving you through this conversation and bringing forth the memory of Imam Husayn alayhi salam. So when I'm having all of these individuals come up to me and share with me every single night, some of the brothers and sisters came up to me and said, Hajj, I don't know how to pray. I want to take you up on your offer. Can you guys show me how to pray? And I'm going to say this to the mainstay team, to our khuddam in the back. Please make yourselves available to show anybody that needs to pray. I'm focusing as much as I possibly can on that prayer. Because my dear brothers and sisters, Al-Husayn alayhi salam, he stopped everything to pray. He stopped everything to pray. His companions died for that prayer. They blocked the arrows that were showered upon him. Sa'id ibn Amr and Zuhair ibn al-Qayn taking the arrows so that they can pray. Those arrows allowed us to have our prayer today. That's the sacrifice. So if you don't know how to pray, come up to us, talk to us. This, by the way, this approach, this active approach, in the majalis of Imam al-Husayn alayhi salam, you have two choices. And by the way, you have two choices in your life as well. You can be passive or you can be active. You can choose to just sit back and have people talk at you and just, maybe you take something, maybe you don't. Or you can choose to be one who takes action. You know what? It's time to pray. Yes, it's time to pray. You know what? It's time to wear the hijab. So many of my sisters, alhamdulillah, they come to the majlis, they put on the hijab. I don't know if somebody's wearing the hijab outside or not. MashaAllah, beautiful. Now, some of my sisters, and forgive me for transgressing if I am, will say, I'm not ready for it yet. Some of my brothers, by the way, have shared with me, I don't think I'm ready to commit to prayer. This is where I'm going to challenge you. This is where you may get a little bit uncomfortable. I'm not passing judgment on you for doing or not doing. What I will say is you're taking an inch, you're making a little bit of a movement. Now dig deeper and ask Allah for strength. You're not ready? Allah is ready. You may not be ready. Guess what? I'm not ready. Every single night, my mentor Sayyid Haidar, he asks me, and typically before a lecture, he says, are you ready? I never know how to answer. Because genuinely, I'm not. I've spent months in preparation. But am I ready? Sometimes I'll lie to myself and I say, I was born ready. Let's go. I got this. Who am I kidding? Who am I kidding? Every day I write a prayer before I get up and I say, God, give me strength. God, give me eloquence. God, give me wisdom. God, give me confidence. God, give me everything that you gave Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad so I can do maybe an ounce of justice to their memory, because this isn't about me. This is about them. And this is about serving all of you in honor of them, because you're coming for their majlis. You're coming for Al-Husayn alayhi salam. So am I ready? It's irrelevant if I'm ready. But Allah is ready. And Allah is always there for me. And His strength is what allows everything to happen so beautifully as it does in this world. So if you're not ready for your hijab, no worries. You don't need to be. Ask God for strength. He will give it to you. You're not ready to pray, you're not ready to commit, no worries. You don't need to be. What if it's not perfect? It doesn't have to be. Start, ask Allah. Stop relying on yourself. When we say La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah, it's something maybe we heard as children. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. Maybe from a parent, an uncle. You know what it means at its core? There is no strength save in God. Imam al-Baqir alayhi salam, he describes the Shia. I mentioned this in one of the first nights, hopefully wanting to bring it back in these last nights. He describes the Shia to one of his companions. His companions, his name was Muyassir. He asked him, he said, Ya Muyassir, would you like to know what it means to be a Shia, a Shi'i? He said, may my life be sacrificed for you, Yabna Rasulullah. These were secrets. These were gems at that time. And Imam al-Baqir, by the way, when I mention a hadith from him, I want you to gain a new perspective about him. Some of you may already know this. But guess what? When you're listening to a talk, don't think about, oh, I've heard that already. Think about, how do you interact with what is being said in a new way? Do you look at the Holy Quran and say, I've already read that book? Do you look at the day of Ashura and say, I already heard that story? No. We search every year and every opportunity, how do you interact to the story in a different way? Because if you are listening to what is being said, you will take your soul to a different state and interaction with what is being shared. Imam al-Baqir alayhi salam, on the day of Ashura, he was the third Imam present. Yes. Imam al-Baqir alayhi salam was 4 years old on the day of Ashura, the son of Imam Zayn al-Abidin alayhi salam, the second Imam present on the day of Ashura, the first being Imam al-Husayn. You see, Imam al-Husayn alayhi salam truly had his family with him, because they were going in this caravan not to go to war, they were going moving. So he had his women and his children. It was a testament to what? Imam al-Husayn knew his fate, but to the world he wanted to show and say, I'm not coming for war. I'm not coming for power. I'm not coming to corrupt. I'm simply coming to move with my family to bring reform in the nation of my grandfather Muhammad. Al-Islah, reform. That reform that would echo into the community and then echo in one's soul. So you and I, when we're looking at that reform, we got to see it within to see it without. Imam al-Baqir alayhi salam was present on that day and into adulthood. Into adulthood, as he would take on the responsibility of the imamah, he would share with his companions what it meant to be Shi'i. Remember, we shared from him. He said, be proud of your name. He said, what is the name? He said, the name is Shia. Be proud that you are from the Shia. But what is that as the Shia? He gives Muyassir a long list of virtues. Amongst them, I will share with you something I want you to keep in mind to my brothers and my sisters. They are, in Arabic, he says, Rahbanan fil layl, usudan fil nahar. They are like monks in the night, lions in the day. Monks in the night, lions in the day. Meaning what? Some of our scholars, when they interpret this, they're looking at this idea that you and I, brothers and sisters, when you worship, as in those strictly spiritual acts, don't do it to show off in front of anybody. When you're with people, be humble. Your acts of piety, if it's congregational, beautiful. It's praying jama'ah, beautiful. We all pray together. But I'm not going to intentionally put a prayer rug right in front of you and start praying. I'm not going to tell you about my acts of worship that I do. I'm going to leave that for the secrets of the night, the privacy of the night. No one sees me. That's why, for example, like Salat al-Layl. Who's heard of Salat al-Layl, the night prayer? If you haven't heard of it, Google it tonight. The night prayer. It's something you do when everybody's asleep. It's you in your complete privacy with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Monks in the night. Nobody sees you. That's your isolation in the night by yourself with God. But in the day, the Shia are like lions. Lions. Doing what? To my young men here, and when I say young men, believe it or not, and this is something, it's becoming more and more of a thing. Would you guys be patient with me if I were to challenge you with this idea? You guys willing to be patient? You're not gonna take this personally? No? All right. Sitting down all day, flipping through our phones on Snapchat, on TikTok, on Instagram, better yet, sitting down on your controller and playing video games all day while your mom doesn't know what to do with you, and you're 25 years old, you're 18 years old, you're 14 years old, and you're at home, and your parents are struggling to pay the bills, and they're just worried about where you're going in your life. Is that a lion? You and I, as men, we need to realize our role. The women in your life and the other men in your life can't look at you as a burden. It doesn't matter how young you are. You can be 8 years old. Al-Qasim had a younger brother. They say he was about 10, 11 years old. He too died on the day of Ashura. His name was Abdullah al-Asghar. And you know how he died? When Imam Husayn alayhi salam was in his final moments, he ran down, he escaped the grasp from his own mother, from his own aunts. They were holding on to him as they were all crying over all of these men that they just lost. They all lost their brother. Imagine when you have a funeral. I mentioned the other night, if someone died in your family, doesn't your life turn upside down? Imagine everyone in your family dying on one day. Look at that trauma. Abdullah al-Asghar, Al-Qasim's younger brother, after Al-Qasim died and after Abbas died, after all of them died, Imam al-Husayn alayhi salam goes into the battlefield. Imam al-Husayn alayhi salam fights off hundreds, kills off hundreds. And he's on the ground finally in his last moments. Abdullah al-Asghar escapes the grasp of the women, runs down the hill, jumps on Imam al-Husayn alayhi salam to protect him. Imam al-Husayn says, my nephew, go back to the women. He said, I will never leave you. Ya Abu Abdullah. He sees an enemy coming close. And he says, "O enemy of Allah, how dare you raise your sword on my master Husayn?" He was 10 years old. So my young man, you're not children. Stand up straight. Sit up straight. Be the men that you are destined to be. Let your mothers look at you like Al-Qasim's mother looked at him, dressed him in his armor. We don't have a battlefield here today other than the battlefield within. Enough with the games. Stop being a burden. And if I'm saying this to the 10 and 11-year-olds, to start manning up so that our mothers can look at us and say, man, bibayid li wajhi. And what do you think I'm going to say to the 25-year-olds? You're a quarter century old. My sisters, you have potential beyond measure. The only one standing in your way is yourself. If people around you are pushing you in the wrong direction and you're seeking their acceptance, that's your issue. That's your problem. It's time to woman up, take responsibility for your life, and live your best life. Stop living on other people's standards because that's what looks good today. Honor yourself. Your hijab is your crown. Don't let anybody cross you in the wrong way. When you cover yourself, and I'm not just talking about your clothing and your mannerism and the way you walk and the way you talk, you are royalty. We don't let our queens be crossed by anyone. Men will be men, women will be women, kings will be kings, queens will be queens, completing one another. But we need to each do our job to make that happen. We each need to take our part. I am responsible for me. You are responsible for you. Can we, like we started the night, end this night with the person on your left and the person on your right? They make you better and you make them better. So that we can look at the day of Ashura and say, yes, يا ليتنا كنا معكم فنفوز فوزا عظيما. We wish we would have been with you. Why? Because today I'm living their principles. So I know on that day, yes, I would have had a grand victory. No matter how young or old I was, and no matter if I was a woman or a man. In their love, a loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. عيد الصلاة على محمد وآل محمد. Every night, brothers and sisters, we're coming forward and we're remembering Imam Al-Husayn alayhi salam and his companions, his family members. Do not be passive. Do not sit back. This is your majlis. This is your experience, your worship, your ritual. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Holy Quran in chapter 61 verse 8, they wish to extinguish the light of God with the breaths of their mouths, but Allah will perfect His light. Allah will perfect His light. The light of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is there. We just need to open our eyes. With me, my dear brothers and sisters, with me. This is your majlis. This is your remembrance. Recite with me if I tell you this tale of sorrow. If I tell you this tale of sorrow, Will you lend me your hearts to borrow? Will you shed a tear for Husayn? I can't hear you. If I tell you this tale of sorrow, for Husayn, will you remember Zainab's pain? And if we stay here tonight until tomorrow, will you bear this tale of sorrow? Listen here to Husayn's story, a story of heartache, a story of heartache and glory. On the day of Ashura, in the land of Karbala, when Imam Al-Husayn had seen his companions fall, one by one they would give their lives. Imam Al-Husayn would have his son Ali Al-Akbar come forward and be martyred in the way of Allah. They say that when Ali Al-Akbar had been martyred, there were so many wounds in his body. The blood had been flowing. Imam Al-Husayn had cried over Ali. He took his body and he laid him in the tent. They say that after Ali Al-Akbar was martyred and killed on the land of Karbala on that day, the sons of Muslim ibn Aqil would come forward. The brothers of Muslim ibn Aqil would come forward. And the sons of Imam Al-Hasan would come forward, all giving their lives one by one. Until the young man, Al-Qasim, who was 14 years old on the day of Ashura, asks Imam Al-Husayn permission yet again, telling him, my Imam, allow me to enter the battlefield, allow me to be your shield, let me show them who the sons of Ali really are. I will make them scatter all near and far. Imam Al-Husayn alayhi salam, he tells Al-Qasim, oh Qasim, your brother Abdullah has already gone forward and been martyred. Al-Hasan has gone forward and is wounded. What do you leave your mother Ramla but tragedies? I can't bear to see you leave and bereave your mother even further. Imagine the scene as Al-Qasim would reply to his uncle Imam Al-Husayn, bowing before him, telling him, my master Husayn, it was my mother who dressed me in my armor. It was my mother who handed me my sword on the day of Ashura. Oh mothers, do you listen to the tragedy of Ramla as she would see her sons go one by one, and Al-Qasim wanting to bring honor to his father, bring honor to his mother. He tells Imam Al-Husayn, please my master Husayn, allow me to give my life for you. Imam Al-Husayn finally gives him permission to enter the battlefield. And Al-Qasim goes in, this young man that he was, going stealthily between the army, between the ranks of the soldiers, striking them left and right. They couldn't tell, they wouldn't know, they wouldn't be able to defend themselves against Al-Qasim. He was so quick, so swift. This young man had learned how to fight the enemies of Allah from his uncle Abbas. He was trained by this lion Abbas. So Al-Qasim continues to strike through the enemies, and he finds himself an opportunity to call out to Umar ibn Sa'd from a distance. This young man calls out to Umar ibn Sa'd in the battlefield. He says, Ya Umar ibn Sa'd, what crime has my uncle Husayn committed that you attack him? Leave Al-Husayn, for he has no sin. We are the family of Rasulullah. We defend La ilaha illallah. Look at the courage and the honor of Al-Qasim, this young man. Umar ibn Sa'd was so irritated by this young man. He says, enough with your pride, O sons of Hashim. And he tells his soldiers to attack him. Al-Qasim continues to fight. But dear brothers and sisters, on that day, remember Al-Qasim is this young man, only 14 years old. And with all the training of Al-Abbas, he's still a young man with little experience in battle. They say that his sandal had ripped, so he went down to fix his left sandal. And the enemies of Allah, as soon as they saw him stop, they attacked him from behind and surrounded him with spears and arrows, attacking Al-Qasim, not leaving him any room to breathe, cutting him down. Al-Qasim calls out, Ha'am Husayn, Adrikni, Adrikni. Uncle Husayn, help me. Imam Al-Husayn rushes into the battlefield and finds Al-Qasim laying on the ground, bloodied from head to toe. He holds Al-Qasim and he tells him, as Al-Qasim is taking his last breaths, he says, my dear Qasim, your uncle wishes to bring you back to life. Your uncle wishes he could save you in your final moments. But know that soon you will be embraced by your father, my brother Al-Hasan. Know that soon you will be embraced by Al-Hasan, your father. Al-Qasim on that day, though he would slay over 100 men on that day, he too would fall, and he too would have his soul depart. Brothers and sisters, Al-Qasim, all he wanted to do was make his uncle proud. All he wanted to do was make his father proud. So imagine, as Al-Qasim Imagine what he would say if he could speak today. Imagine as we honor his memory, what would Al-Qasim say? Al-Qasim on the day of Ashura would remember his father, Imam Al-Husayn. Father, I just wanna make you proud. Father, I just wanna make you proud. Uncle Husayn stands all alone on the plains of Karbala. So how could I not defend him in your name? Father, I just wanna make you proud. Uncle Husayn stands all alone on the sands of Karbala. So how could I not defend him in your name? So Al-Qasim goes to Husayn and he tells him, let me enter the battlefield and be your shield. Let me enter the battlefield and be your shield. Like Akbar, I am your son, I won't run. Like Akbar, I am your son, I won't run. Imam Al-Husayn would reply to him, Ya Qasim, my dear Qasim, I see you, I know you're here. My dear Qasim, I see you, I know you're here, but I just can't let you go, Ya Qasim. I just can't let you go, Ya Qasim. Father, I just wanna make you proud. Uncle Husayn stands all alone on the plains of Karbala. So how could I not defend him in your name? Uncle Husayn, Uncle Husayn, Uncle Husayn, Uncle Husayn, Uncle
Husayn, Uncle Husayn, Uncle Husayn, Uncle Husayn, Uncle Husayn, Uncle Husayn, Uncle Husayn, Uncle Husayn.